Saddle up, gunfighters, for another episode of Gunfighter Life, where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, use of force, the right way with Almighty God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience, making godly men strong and strong men godly. I'm not going to put in a bio today before the episode. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about budget guns that I like, or affordable guns that I like. And I know that may be a misnomer because what's affordable to me may not be affordable to you. And what's affordable to you may be out of my price range. If we use like the median household income as a general rule of thumb, kind of think about more budget-friendly guns that I actually like, that I think are good. And some people that listen to this podcast regularly may think that I'm a gun snob, and some may think that I'm not snobby enough. Some people might think that if it's not a Daniel Defense, it's junk, or if it's not a Wilson Combat, it's junk. But here's the thing. I'm not going to pee on you and tell you that it's raining. I'm also not going to talk into this microphone and tell you, to make you feel good, that you can get some cheap Turkish knockoff of Benelli M4 and it's going to be just as good as a Benelli M4 that cost a couple of $1,000 for a couple of $100. I'm not going to do that. That's not true. Part of the thing that makes the Benelli M series so good is its quality control and its manufacturing process and the quality of materials. Likewise, I'm not going to tell you you can get a Taurus and it's going to rival a Wilson Combat. Again, I'm not going to pee on you and tell you that it's raining. I'm not going to talk into this microphone and intentionally lie to you. But there are some affordable guns, some cheaper guns that I actually really like. That's what we're going to talk about today. A little bit of parameters here. I'm going to try and stick with guns that are still being made. At least I believe are still being made at the time of this recording. And so should be, unless something catastrophic happens, unless the end is nigh, well in December of 23. But we're rolling in to 2024. So, budget-friendly guns that I like for 2024. Enough of a prelude. Let's get into it, shall we? The first one, a stainless steel, other than that, basic model 1022. They're not an expensive gun. Probably a gun that you will have, unless you sell it or get stolen or something, for the rest of your life. It probably will give you no issues. Rugged, reliable. If you don't have a good 22 rifle, I think that's part of any basic battery. I don't care if you have 20 ARs. You should have a 1022. If you have one AR and you're looking at another one, perhaps first you should get a 1022. If for nothing else than affordable training and polishing the skill of rifle craft more affordably. Right, Ruger 1022, it comes with iron sights, thankfully. I will always go stainless. I think you're going to be much better off in the long run. But they're not crazy expensive, and they're such a good gun. Also, if you want a decent bolt-action gun, Savage, they make a Mark II 22. They make it in other calibers too, but 22 long rifle, they make an affordable bolt-action 22. So if you want a bolt-action, because you want more analogous training to a bolt-action centerfire, or you just like hunting small game, or you want to be able to have repeatable firepower, assuming it feeds with other types of ammo, you want it to be more of an omnivore. Those Savages. I just saw a Savage bolt-action at Walmart, and here's a little side tip, a little litmus test. If your nearest Walmart doesn't sell guns, you might want to reconsider where you live. Just give it some thought. But I was at Walmart the other day, and I was looking at yesterday, and I was looking at one of these. It was under $200. Now, I don't know when you're going to listen to this and the price of inflation or whatever, but a good bolt-action 22 for under $200, yeah, that's awesome. I can't attest to that specific model because I don't own it, but if it's like most other Savages I'm familiar with, it has a good trigger, or it can be made very easily into a very good trigger and is going to be very accurate. Every Savage I've ever shot has been very accurate. Also, if you want semi-auto a little bit more affordably, they make the Model 64. They make it in stainless. So if you don't want to go Ruger 1022, and that's still my number one recommendation, but if they don't have it or you don't want it and you want something a little bit more affordable, that Savage Model 64. Maybe it's taken the place of the older Marlin Model 60, which is no longer being made. Moving up, the Savage Axis. Now, I have in the past owned a couple of these, and again, crazy accurate. They make a model with the Accu-Trigger. I don't know if they still make the one pre-Accu-Trigger. I got the Savage Axis, Axes, I guess, plural, when they first came out. And they didn't have the Accu-Trigger, but you could easily tune the trigger and make them phenomenal. Crazy accurate, right? If I got them for, look at the Savage Axis, and I got them years ago, pre-COVID money. And if I had spent $1,000 back then and they were the same amount of accuracy, I would have been happy with them. They were crazy accurate. I have one in 243 and one in 223, and they were just superb. If you spend more money on a push feed centerfire rifle, you're probably doing it because you want certain features, not for the accuracy. Because I'm telling you, the Savage Axis, unless you get a lemon, are tack drivers. Moving over to Mossberg. Bet you think I'm going to talk about the Mossberg Patriot, but I'm not. I would go the Axis over it. But the Mossberg MVP, kind of the budget scout. One of my really good friends owned one of these when they came out way back in the day. And one of the patrons, I was talking about it the other day. Phenomenal gun. I know it's a little bit heavy for a true scout, but it's kind of that scout smell to it. Just a good all-around manual transmission rifle, meaning like not a semi-auto. I might do a whole episode in the future on like road trip guns or 50 state legal guns. But just a good gun. Comes with iron sights. Comes with a flash hider, which I like, and not necessarily for hiding flash because I'm hard on stuff and I beat the crap out of stuff and I might drop it on the muzzle. I like that. Added level of protection. I also like backup iron sights. Backup iron sights to me on a modern rifle with modern optics are kind of like an emergency brake in a car. You may go the whole time you own that thing and never need it. But if you need that, you probably really need it. I like backup iron sights. And sadly, whatever the market dictates or to save money or whatever, most bolt-action rifles don't come with iron sights anymore. Most centerfire bolt-action rifles don't come with iron sights anymore. And that's sad. There's plenty of these 1,000-yard, 6.5 something, super heavy, in my opinion, a little bit unwieldy guns floating around. But where's all the practical guns with backup iron sights? Or primary iron sights? Well, the Mossberg MVP is one that does that without costing a lot of money. I'm not saying it's the equal, again, I'm not going to lie to you, I don't think it's the equal of a Steyr Scout or a Ruger Scout, but it's a lot more affordable. And it's been being made for quite a number of years, which tells me it's not junk. They haven't spewed it out of their mouth. The consumer market at least seems to be buying enough of them to keep them going. Again, if you've been intrigued by that kind of scout concept, they make it. I believe they make it in they make it in several calibers, 308, 5.56, and 300 Blackout. Talk about like a cool urban survival truck gun, especially somewhere where you can't have a semi-auto. One in 300 Blackout. That's a pretty cool idea. And also, nobody's going to argue with the effectiveness of 308. And if you want a light version, the 223. But that Mossberg MVP, I think, is a really cool gun for the money. A really cool budget gun that I actually like. The next one, Palmetto State Armory ARs. I don't have a specific model for you, but I'd stick with one that was nitrided. I think their nitride treatment is awesome. But their AR-15s, if you look at what you get for the money, they're just crazy good. I bought one years and years ago when I was the commander of a tactical team, and I got it as a training rifle for my good, quote-unquote, good AR, much more expensive AR, and I thought, I'll get it, I'll run the crap out of it. If it has malfunctions, that's fine, right? Because fixing malfunctions is part of training. That thing was so reliable, so rugged, so good, so dependable, that it became one of my core go-to fighting rifles. And it was one of the Palmetto State Armory like build kits, nitride barrel 1 in 7 twist, and just a phenomenal gun. It's crazy reliable. Who knows how I've had it for years. Who knows how many rounds I've put through it. Been beaten around. I used it as not as a hunting gun, don't get that idea, but when I was a professional big game hunter and guide, part of that was managing a ranch, managing the herd for taking out coyotes and stuff like that when I wanted a bit more firepower, and I didn't mind it literally knocking around a tractor or a truck or a side-by-side, like just getting beat up. And the thing was always good, always reliable. It's a rock-solid gun. I've heard similar things from other people by PSA. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not a Daniel Defense, but it's a good gun for the money. Here's how good. If you listen to a lot of the episodes, I've been on a quest for a go-to survival 22 because my takedown 22 was stolen. And the model that I wanted, the one with the backpacker stock and everything, is like, I don't usually like saying prices, but it's like $550 for this takedown Ruger 1022. Not that it's not worth it. Some of the Palmetto State Armory kits are under that. I could get the entire AR in 223 and a 22 conversion kit and be in the same ballpark. So I could get, and most people don't think of an AR as a takedown gun, but it absolutely is. You have 2 pins. You can do something as simple as take a clean dress sock, cut the other end off so it's more like a muff, put it on both ends, fold it over, and then when you have to go use it, you rip it apart. Both ends come off to keep it clean. Keep the bolt and everything clean. You put it together, shove the 2 pins in. That's a takedown gun. If I could have an AR with 2 calibers, probably very reliable, for the same price as a Ruger 1022 takedown backpacker stock. Which, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. Right? That's how affordable that the Palmetto State Armory ARs are. I'm comparing their kits to 22s, like good quality 22s. Not even crazy expensive 22s like a Taxol, but like a factory option Ruger 1022. That's how affordable they are, and they're good guns. Again, I bought them kind of as a training gun, as a backup gun, and they just have really impressed me. If you offered me any random model of PSA AR or Springfield Saint, I would take the PSA, because what I've seen from both, I would take the Palmetto State Armory. It's a phenomenal gun for the money. And I don't know any specific model, but obviously if you're going for like an M forgery, something in the 16-inch barrel, 1-8, 1-7 twist, nitride, pick your flavor. You want the A2 post, which I actually like, or you want the more modern free float tube, whatever you want. They have a bunch of different models. So it's a good, affordable option. If you look at what you can get a PSA, even with today's, post-COVID inflation, you compare that to not that long ago. We're talking a little bit over a decade ago when there was only a few manufacturers of ARs. What you had to pay to get a decent AR, like, it's a really good deal. So, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Those PSA guns, not just me, but I've had great experiences and I've heard good things. Okay, moving on. Maverick 88. You knew we were going to talk about shotguns. The ultimate survival long gun, says me. The Maverick 88s. The other day I was in Sportsman's getting some ammo. They had a Maverick 88 in there with that, one of my favorite camo patterns, which is that either mossy oak or real tree bottomland. They both look real similar. Stock, it was crazy affordable. They're good guns. They're even still made in America. You could get some cheap Chinese knockoff shotgun. You could get some cheap Turkish pump shotgun. Or you could get an American-made Mossberg Maverick 88. They're crazy rugged and reliable. And if you have an AR and you're looking at getting a second or third AR, unless you're just a competition shooter, you actually want a well-rounded battery, maybe after that 1022 or before it even, consider a Maverick 88. Whatever flavor you want. The field version, the tactical version, they even make combos that come with both barrels. Talk about utility and just versatility for the price. I don't think they're rivaled. You can get like cheaper break open single shot shotguns like the Hatfield, which are also not bad if you just want a single shot shotgun. But for not a lot more, you can get good repeatable firepower. If you can run a pump, they can be absolutely rugged and reliable and fast. A decent rate of fire. I would consider a good pump Maverick 88 configured correctly an awesome home defense weapon, an awesome truck gun, an awesome hunt anything in North America. If you can't kill it with a 12 gauge, you've entered into the world of Jurassic Park, right? A 12 gauge with proper slugs is a go-to guide gun in Alaska for grizzly bear. And you can also if you're skilled enough, pluck a fat little quail, a beautiful little blessing of a protein ball out of the air and not destroy it and still be able to eat it. It's so flexible for the money. And of all the ones I could recommend, why wouldn't I recommend the Maverick 88? I don't even own one because I own a Mossberg 590. And I'm not a gun collector, I'm a gun fighter. But if I'm looking to recommend one, the Maverick 88 is just an awesome, awesome choice. Now here's a Turkish one that I am going to recommend, and I'm not big on recommending Turkish stuff because it's of varying quality and reputation. And also, Turkey is a Muslim country, and there's a lot of Muslims out there, like Hamas, that are nasty terrorists that want to rape women and abduct people and behead Christians, and I'm not about supporting that. And Turkey is a vastly Muslim country, so I don't know how much I want to support them. But if I'm being honest, the Canik Rival is a really good gun for the money. I'd recommend you buy American, but if that's in your price point and you want all the features that it offers, I'm going to tell you out of the box, and especially if you're going to mount an optic, because it has a really good optics mounting system. I think the best factory optics mounting system I've worked with is on the Canik Rival. And I don't like that it's made in Turkey, but I'm not going to lie to you, it's a rock-solid gun for the money. The Canik Rival, when the Caniks first came out, some of their earlier models were of dubious, I think, reliability, but as of late, and especially the Canik Rival, in my experience, and I've not heard anything bad about them. If you want to enter into that world of competition shooting and you want an out-of-the-box ready option that's not going to break the bank, the Canik Rival is hard to beat. They got a good trigger. They have a really good optics mounting system. They come with a lot of extras. If you look at what you get with a Canik Rival versus a Glock, if you get the Glock, it's just because, well, there are many reasons. I'm not going to say that. But it begs the question, why? Other than you just don't want to support a Turkish company, which I get. They're a good gun for the money. I'm not going to lie about that. Here is another one. We're in the world of handguns, but almost as, not as polar opposite. I guess polar opposite would be like a 22 short Derringer and a Desert Eagle 50A or something, right? But pretty far on the other end of the spectrum. Heritage Rough Rider. These are great guns. These are great guns for the money. Single action, kind of like the old Colt Peacemaker. They look similar. They're inherently safe guns. They're a good gun if you want to just have a 22 handgun and you don't want to spend a bunch of money. Or you want to teach. This is one of my go-to teaching guns for teaching new shooters handgun techniques and especially teaching youth. They have a couple of cool features. I can look because it's single action only. It won't fire without the hammer back. So I can look instantly and tell if that gun's ready to fire or not. I like that. Also, it has an added safety on the side. I like that. I'm not saying it's the best. I'm not saying it's the equal of a Ruger single 6 or the new Colt 22 revolver, but you're talking crazy good money. If you want the best of the best single action 22, this ain't it. But if you want a good, affordable, you want to get into handgun hunting and you want to start with small game, get the interchangeable cylinders, 22 Magnum, 22 long rifle, or you just want to go 22 long rifle, you want to challenge yourself, hunt small game with a handgun, which can be a lot of fun. Or you're running a trap line, which I've been a professional trapper as well. You just want a cheap gun to run traps, meaning to dispatch an animal. You want to load it with 22 shorts or something like that. You want a glove box gun for a ranch truck. Or you just want just a fun gun to go out and shoot and play. Because let's not forget, shooting can be fun. I was out shooting 22 today, and although I was doing some serious training, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. So those Heritage 22s, and there is the Ruger Wrangler now, which are not crazy out of the price range, but the Heritage Rough Riders are a little bit cheaper, unless you're really, really going to use it a lot, and you're like looking for something. Again, it's not the best single action 22 revolver on the market, but it's really good for the money. Those Heritage Rough Riders, they come in a bunch of different configurations. They go from super small, I don't know who would conceal carry it because they're way better options, but they maybe a tackle box gun or something for snakes, to really, really almost comically ridiculously long. They come in all manner of configurations, way more configurations than the Ruger Wrangler. And again, they're just really good for the money. Keeping on the Ruger bandwagon, because Ruger is known for making a lot of really good guns for the money. And this is not the best 9mm handgun on the market. I'm not going to lie and tell you that it is. But it is American made, and I would probably take one over a Taurus. And they cost about the same. And they're made in America. I think they're made in Arizona. But the Ruger Security 9, if you just want a decent, functional, American made with a good warranty, semi-auto 9mm, it's not going to be probably the most accurate. It's probably not going to have the greatest longevity, right? It's probably not going to go 100,000 rounds without something going wrong like a Glock may. But for most people, the way they use a gun, or if you want to get somebody into a modern semi-automatic 9mm and you want to buy American, Ruger Security 9 is not a bad gun. Especially not for the money. Here's another one. People will be happy. Kel-Tec. Kel-Tec makes some really good guns, and Kel-Tec makes some guns where I look at it and I want to scratch my head and say, why would you make a Bullpup 12 gauge? But whatever. But they make some really good guns, and they make some good guns for the money. Kind of affordable, decent guns. They make several. If you want that modern semi-auto but really concealable. Now, I just recorded a whole section on the Kel-Tec PF9, talking about the praises of it. But in doing some research for you guys, it may be discontinued. I'm not sure, and I said in the beginning, currently made. I did see a couple in stock, though, P3ATs, and it's pronounced like P380, but it's not spelled that way. It's the Kel-Tec P, number 3, A as in Alpha, T as in Tango. P3AT. Pretty clever. But if the Kel-Tec PF9 is still being made, or you can find one at a really good deal, but the Kel-Tec P380, talk about small. Uber small. Right? Small before micro carry guns were cool. Just super small, super tiny, super affordable. They're not the greatest shooting guns. I don't recommend them for a carry gun if you can carry something bigger. But if you can't, if you want a super small carry gun, lightweight, affordable, again, American made, those Kel-Tec P380, I think they're still being made. I found a couple of places that had them in stock. Even if you get a better carry gun, and hopefully in time you will, you probably won't regret an uber small P380 or something like it as a backup gun. You know, especially if you're law enforcement working in official capacity, something like that. Not that it's the best backup gun, but I don't think you regret having one. One of your buddies flies in, he doesn't want to fly with a gun, but he has a concealed carry, take him out to the range, have him shoot it, and you let him borrow it for the week or whatever. It's a lot better than nothing. It's a lot better than a sharp stick. And they're super lightweight. For the person that really doesn't want to, they're just not going to. You could tell them that they should, but they're just not going to carry a bigger gun. They're lightweight, they're small, they're semi-auto, right? They're not a bad choice. The last one, not dirt cheap, but I think a really good value. The Smith & Wesson J-frames. They make a bunch. They make some really expensive ones, but they're basic models. And they make a bunch. These are not the only two, but they're basic, like 442 or 642. They're just really good. And I'm not going to tell you to go cheap on a revolver. I think you can get away with more making a cheap semi-auto. People, I think, have this myth that revolvers are simple. They're simple for the user to operate. But if you've ever taken one apart, it looks like a watch factory got seasickness and just threw up all over the inside of it. They're not simple inside. There's a lot that has to go right and a lot of things that have to be made well. Like, I'm not going to recommend you carry, if you want one just to shoot, that's fine. I'm not going to recommend you get and carry like a Rock Island Armory 38 Special. But my first actual handgun I bought with my own money, and my first carry gun, and a gun that I still have and sometimes carry, a Smith & Wesson J-frame. They're basic models. They're 442, they're 642, and there are other basic models, but they're affordable. They're Smith & Wesson. They're probably something, again, unless you lose it or get stolen, might go down for generations. And you might think, why in today's day and age would you carry a revolver when there's so many semi-autos? Well, I've covered that in other episodes. But if you decided you want to, kind of the cheap, affordable one that I would feel comfortable carrying and recommending for you to carry are the basic model Smith & Wesson J-frames. And there are a bunch of different models. The model 637, depending on whether you want a hammer or not. And the bodyguards. I'm not as big a fan of those, but let's face it, they're pretty much a J-frame. They're not exactly a J-frame, but they're even more affordable. And they've been around a long time. So if you can't squeeze out the money for a Smith J-frame, the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard, I prefer the J-frame, but I haven't heard of the bodyguards falling apart or anything like that. They're good guns if you want a good carry revolver. 38 Special Plus P is just a proven round. I mean, that was a police duty round for decades. Am I telling you that's the best carry gun? No, but I'm telling you there are a lot of advantages to carrying a revolver. It's not my go-to carry gun, but sometimes I will. Especially if I'm pocket carrying and my ultra light carry. Especially like a Smith & Wesson Airweight or a Scandium frame, which they're not cheap, but they're easy to carry. And they're still quite a bit of firepower. And there's a lot of advantages against a revolver. Again, not my general carry gun, not my general recommendation for a carry gun, but in certain circumstances, a J-frame absolutely is a good choice. And the basic models are not crazy expensive. They're just good, rugged, reliable, forgiving of neglect. They're good guns. And they're not crazy expensive. I think they're a decent value. Anyway, I think that's a good place to wrap up the guns for the tactical tip of the day. And I don't like to generally recommend products, but I just saw this at Walmart. And I had to pick it up. It was like $6 or something like that. I think it might have been under $6, more like $6 over with tax or something. But it was a small EDC fixed blade knife. Do you think, because when I started carrying a fixed blade, it wasn't real popular. And they were kind of hard to find. Do you think that Walmart executives listen to Gunfighter Life? I doubt it, and they're certainly not a sponsor. I don't take sponsors. You shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and twists the words of the righteous. But I don't even remember the model, but it was an Ozark Trail. It's a good size EDC fixed blade, like that general 3 to 4 inch blade. I like the EDC, a fixed blade knife. If you want to, I'm not saying it's the best EDC fixed blade knife. Again, I'm not telling you that this Ozark Trail is the equivalent of a White River or a Benchmade. It's not. I'm not even telling you it's a good knife. What I'm telling you is it's a fixed blade, so not a lot that's going to go wrong. If you've heretofore carried a folding knife and you want to maybe try carrying a fixed blade, but you don't want to dump $200 into a Benchmade, and you want to carry it for a week and see if you like carrying a fixed blade. Walmart, $5 and some change, at least where I am at the time of this recording, or at the time I bought it yesterday. But not a bad option. And again, you probably aren't going to regret having a spare, like throwing it in your glove box. You got a buddy who needs a knife and he's just the kind of guy that just abuses stuff, which that's fine if it's his stuff. But if it's your stuff, maybe you give him the Ozark Trail instead of handing him the Benchmade. Or if you just want a beater knife. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. I was kind of really excited that they had one geared towards EDC. The sheath is actually really good. I carried it a little bit today. It's got good positive retention. I think the sheath alone is worth $6. But anyway, it is made in China, but I'm not recommending it as a go-to carry knife, but I'm recommending it if you want to flirt with the world of EDCing a fixed blade knife instead of a folding knife. You might be surprised with how much you like it. Anyway, with that, let's talk about the most important part of the show, hopefully, the tactical verse of the day, the Bible, the Word of God. What are my words compared to God's words? They pale in comparison. If you have a little bit of disposable income to buy a gun that you don't need, if you have the money to get a gun, that's a blessing. Remember the blesser. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. I'm going to read the first part of that again. And you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth. You think it's your strong hands or your intellect or whatever that you have wealth? No. Everything you have is a gift from God. The cognitive ability, your intelligence, your wisdom, your strength, it's all a gift from God, and you had best remember that and praise the giver and be thankful. Remember, least you think it's by your power or your wisdom or your strength. It is God who gives you power to get wealth. You couldn't draw another breath without his grace. It's by his leave that you exist, and anything you have is a gift from him. Any good thing you have in life is because God had mercy on you, because it's more than we deserve. With that, thanks for listening, and have a blessed day.